Thank you, Maria, for inviting me to present at this International Dysgraphia Awareness Day conference, and for all of the effort you and your team have made to create this much needed event. The theme of my talk is Dysgraphia Deserves a Breakthrough. Own the alphabet, change everything. I hope that you find it informative and enjoyable. I have a question. What if there was a simple practice so powerful that it could significantly transform the experience of dysgraphia for millions of children and adults? My name is Diane Devenyi, and I'm the creator of the Alphabetter Method and the Hidden Genius Literacy Assessment. For more than 25 years, I've helped learners who struggle with messy writing, poor spelling, and difficulty expressing their thoughts discover that the root cause of the issue isn't their ability or motivation. It's an incomplete foundation that can be rebuilt. My journey began in an unexpected place. I started a career in taxation law, but motherhood shifted my attention to how children learn and why so many bright children were struggling with reading and writing. That led me to train in dyslexia correction, return to graduate school for a master's degree in education, and run pilot literacy projects in Toronto public schools. What I found was that when we reconnected to the alphabet, not as symbols to memorize, but as shapes to feel, form, and own, the brain begins to reorganize itself. Clarity returns, confidence grows, and once looked like a lifelong struggle becomes a door to creative expression. Over the years, I've taught and two-day workshops for children and adults that consistently transform messy, hesitant writing into confident expression, often in a matter of hours. To help you understand how I ask that question I just posed about a simple practice, let me introduce you to Blair, an 8-year-old whose story changed the way I think about learning forever. After spending 2 years in a special education class and attending weekly sessions with an occupational therapist for an entire year, when asked to print the uppercase and lowercase alphabets, Blair produced these 22 symbols, some of which were barely recognizable as letters. His hand and his mind simply weren't communicating. But after only a day and a half of multisensory alphabet relearning, forming each letter through sight, sound, and touch, something extraordinary happened. Blair went home and wrote this note to his teacher. He shocked many people, including his teacher and his occupational therapist. The transformation was unmistakable. His letters were clear. His words made sense. And for the first time, reading and math suddenly opened up to him. In a day and a half, Blair didn't just learn the alphabet. He reconnected his brain, his body, and his confidence. For too long, we've treated children like Blair as if their brains or hands are broken. They're not. Their letters just haven't been properly introduced to their minds through their hands and imagination yet. When people hear the word dysgraphia, they may think of a neurological disorder, something permanent, incurable, to be accommodated rather than changed. But after working with hundreds of learners, I began to see something very different. Dysgraphia isn't a disease of the brain. It's an incomplete connection between the brain, the body, and the alphabet. So instead of calling it a disorder, I define dysgraphia in this way. looking at the symptoms rather than labels. Dysgraphia is the inability to produce letters, words, and sentences that follow conventional rules for placement, position, and condition. That definition moves the problem out of the realm of neurological fate and into the realm of learnable skill. When letters don't sit properly on the line or maintain consistent shape, they're signaling not a defect, but a missing layer of coherence between the brain, the body, and the symbols of language itself. And that coherence can be rebuilt. This reframing changes everything. It means that what looks like a lifelong disability is actually a repairable relationship with symbols, space, and self. And once that relationship is rebuilt through sensory, joyful, whole body engagement, handwriting and spelling skills appear faster than anyone expects. That's why Blair's transformation wasn't miraculous. It was logical. His brain simply received the right invitation to reconnect. And his story is not an isolated one. What we saw in him is what I've seen again and again with children and adults. When the alphabet becomes a felt experience rather than a memorized one, the whole system of learning reorganizes. And that brings me to Blair's occupational therapist, who realized that her 50 clients needed more than the techniques she had learned. They needed sensory reconnection to the alphabet. My goal is to help you understand this as well. Before we attempt to address anything else in literacy, we must start here with the alphabet itself. Because when there's confusion in the alphabet, when letters are disordered, reversed, or inaccurate, every other effort in reading, spelling, or writing rests on a shaky foundation. You may be wondering, what is the best way to assess alphabet proficiency? This is why I created the Hidden Genius Literacy Assessment, or HGLA, a simple yet robust tool designed to make that invisible confusion visible. Most psychoeducational evaluations for dysgraphia identify difficulties in handwriting, spelling, and written expression, revealing underlying strengths and weaknesses, and cognitive skills, motor skills, and academic abilities that impact written work. This information is used to create an individualized learning plan, secure school accommodations, and develop strategies to manage challenges and support overall development. But here's the problem. They rarely tell us how to permanently fix the issues, nor do they emphasize certainty of the alphabet as an essential foundational element of literacy. The result? Parents and teachers often end up with reports that confirm the struggle, but fail to provide a path to resolution that addresses the root cause. Unlike traditional assessments, the HGLA specifically measures alphabet coherence, how clearly the brain and body produce the sequence, placement, and shape of letters that form the basis of language. The process is a playful multisensory experience that identifies a learner's inner map of letter order versus letter disorder. Parents and teachers often describe it as the first time they've actually seen what's been happening beneath the surface. And I will often ask parents, are they interested in a diagnosis or in a solution? Because sometimes you need to look at a new way of looking at things to get the solution. The results are both scientific and practical for the Hidden Genius Literacy Assessment. They show exactly where alphabet order breaks down, creating dysgraphia-like symptoms. They give parents clear next steps for rebuilding the foundation. and they give teachers insight into the root cause of a student's struggle, plus a way to support the family's plan to resolve it. Once alphabet coherence is established, everything else can begin to function: reading, spelling, focus, and self-esteem. Until that confusion is resolved, though, every strategy, no matter how well-intentioned or designed, is built on sand. The HGLA doesn't provide labels that assessments typically assign. It reveals the structure of their potential and the precise steps to unlock it. Plus, it offers positive ways of looking at the entire picture. Over time, I began to recognize 4 recurring, what I call, hidden genius patterns. There are trailblazers whose letters explore space freely. They play with placement and position, breaking down convention. You know, those ones who don't follow the rules about where things go on the line or the sequence of words. And then there are innovators whose letters shift size and shape with imagination. They could be seeing possibilities that others miss. The catalyst is someone who shows us where instruction itself can improve. They help to transform systems. And the connectors are ones whose letters show high coherence, beautiful printing usually, but there may be hidden challenges. Their craving for pattern and precision can drive them to be overly critical of themselves. When you learn to read these patterns, the writing stops looking like a problem and starts looking like a portrait of potential. This way, dysgraphia doesn't just reveal what's wrong, it reveals who's waiting to emerge. As you can see, the hidden genius part of the HGLA is about what is already present and can be leveraged. And that's when we start seeing transformations like the one Blair had. Now let's look at what alphabet coherence, or the lack of it, actually looks like. Both examples you're about to see come from 8-year-old students who had never been identified as having exceptional issues with reading and writing. This first image shows what happens when a learner tries to reproduce the alphabet from memory without external prompts. You can see gaps, reversals, and incorrect positions that appear when the sequence isn't wired coherently in the brain. It's important to look at both the upper and lower case. And then you may be wondering, why have them draw a picture of anything? That helps to determine whether or not they are struggling with fine motor skill issues. You may think that poor letter formation is a fine motor skill issue, but if you can see from a drawing that they can control a writing instrument and make shapes that are recognizable, then perhaps there's something else at play, something that is related to confusion of the letters themselves rather than a fine motor skill issue. So every example tells the same story. Once the brain reconnects to the alphabet as an ordered system, learning flows. Reading comprehension improves, math can improve, emotional regulation improves. This is what I mean when I say before we can build literacy, we must restore coherence. The HGLA shows us where to start. And once alpha better has been experienced, we can see dramatic improvement. Here you see the formation of the letters is consistent. No letters are missing. And spacing evens out. And most importantly, the student now has a solid foundation for successful literacy. Here is another sample in which a student had reversals, issues with case, upper and lower case being confused, as well as as irregular placement on the line relative to convention. Once they had a chance to relearn their letters, we had a completely different story. Now, sometimes I look at this and I think perhaps this student was so excited about having their letters completely coherent that they started flying off the line in enthusiasm. It would only take a little bit to bring that back into where it belongs. But as you can see, there's been a dramatic improvement again. And I wish to emphasize, these are students who had never been identified as having any literacy issues. But you can imagine how much more difficult their entire educational career would be when they haven't had a chance to resolve the letters. I also want to point out that when you work on the sequence of the alphabet, and this is why it's important, you are establishing a foundation for many concepts, forms of concepts of sequence for learning, especially for math. Math depends on understanding the concepts of sequence. Spelling is a concept of sequence, and just getting along with people, understanding the way that people tend to have expectations about the way things flow. All of those things have to do with sequence. And so when you have an opportunity to establish a sense of sequence, and the students, when they do this work, actually learn the alphabet forward and backwards, so that they really are playing with sequence in a variety of ways. So the alphabet experience. There's a phrase I love: as the body moves, the brain grooves. Over the years, I've developed games and experiences that use every part of a person: body, mind, and heart. We form letters out of clay. We balance and breathe. We play partner games and rhythmic whole body activities that connect movement with meaning and connect movement to integration of the symbols of the alphabet. When the body participates, the brain rewires, and it can happen really quickly. Modern neuroimaging now shows us and confirms that what we experience in real life, joyful multisensory learning, activates new neural pathways almost immediately. So Blair's breakthrough wasn't a miracle, it was neuroplasticity at play. We were never meant to sit still and memorize symbols. We were meant to move our way into literacy in playful and engaging ways. For every alphabetter session begins with learning warm-ups, which include physical focus, breathing, and mindset practices that prepare the body and mind for unlearning patterns that are not serving and relearning new ones. Without them, the brain resists. With them, it awakens. Then comes the magic: making the letters. When learners create each letter out of modeling clay, something profound happens. They're not copying, they're owning. These letters that they make have a certain weight to them. They require a lot of work with their hands, but it's also very engaging work, particularly for those who benefit from having more kinesthetic experiences, but also enrich everybody's ability to connect through kinesthetic experiences, comprehension in the brain. So each letter lives in their fingertips, their breath, their imagination. Students of all ages can become very attached to their letters. In fact, I used to have them make the uppercase letters first, and then we would squish up the clay to make the lowercase ones. So many students would say they weren't ready to give up their uppercase letters. So we had to then create their lowercase out of a new piece of clay. And as they do this, pride blooms and joy replaces judgment. They just cannot deny that they've done something extraordinary. And then we reinforce this ownership of each letter with balancing games, partner activities, and full body coordination. The result? Integration, not just of skills, but of themselves. Soon, students reach what I call the superpower moment. They can imagine the alphabet so vividly that they can recite it forward and backward with ease. That's when the brain's wiring clicks into coherence. I'd like to tell you a story about 19-year-old Dina, who had struggled with what was considered messy writing and really didn't understand how to do anything about it. When we spent a few hours first learning the learning warm-ups and then beginning with making the letters, Dina was a little discouraged because she was wondering whether she was ever going to be able to do this and wondered whether there are some people who simply cannot learn. Fortunately, on day 2, things started falling into place. And you can see Dina's uppercase alphabet. And as I mentioned, doing the alphabet forwards and backwards, Dina decided to challenge and print it out that way and look at it that way. And then what followed was the lowercase alphabet, similarly with significant improvement. But what was most important was at the end of the day when Dina could see picture perfect printed letters that she had created, I asked, "What is available to you now?" And she replied, "Learning." These breakthroughs cross generations. One student, Elliot, at age 9, his mother told me, 4 months with you produced more results than 5 years of school. Elliot had been struggling because in his school, they started and were expected to exclusively use cursive writing, and it wasn't working for him. So we had his mother explain to the teacher that we're going to work on the printed letters first, because those are the letters that we see in everything, in the books, on the screens. It's the printed letters that we're interacting with. And that's why it's really important to integrate those. And for some, jumping straight to cursive is a gap that they can never overcome. But it didn't take long before Elliot began winning awards for neat writing, participation, and athletics, because his confidence finally matched his capabilities. And then there was Ron, age 77. He was left-handed, forced to use his right hand, and spent a lifetime feeling stupid and embarrassed about his writing. After participating with a group of families, he began sending me messages saying, "I woke up laughing again today." And he also mentioned that people are listening to me in ways they never have before. I don't think it was a difference in the people. I think it was a difference in the way Ron felt about himself. 5 years later, he still impresses people with his backward alphabet. From 8 to 80, the story is the same. When the alphabet aligns, life aligns. So what does all this mean? It means dysgraphia is not incurable. It's just misunderstood. The alphabet isn't a tedious code to memorize. It's a technology for coherence. And when you use the entire being to learn it, it becomes a bridge between movement, thought, and emotion. And when that bridge is rebuilt, literacy is not just a skill, but a form of self-expression and freedom. Imagine classrooms and families where every learner reconnects with that inner alphabet, where no child ever feels broken because of handwriting. How many hidden geniuses would finally come alive? And now back to the original question. What if there was a simple practice so powerful that it could significantly transform the experience of dysgraphia for millions of children and adults? Answer, it exists, and it combines the Hidden Genius Literacy Assessment and Alphabetter. I have written a book called Dear Genius, Harness the Hidden Power in Your ABCs for neater writing, better spelling, faster reading, and turning thoughts into words. I have many examples in there of the types of letter disorder that I have identified and that has been included in the Hidden Genius Literacy Assessment. And when I sat down to write the introduction to the book, this poem came to me. And it's a love letter to every learner, young or old, who has ever felt unseen. And I would like to share it with you now. Dear Genius, yes, I'm talking to you. You whose eyes betray the wounds of being the bully or the bullied in the schoolyard. Remembering to this day the feeling of the pit in your stomach that day when you gave the wrong answer in class and everybody laughed. I hear what you think you can or cannot do, and what your third grade teacher sent home in notes about your missing the brains, effort, or focus boats. It's time to cross the moat from that world with your banner unfurled and wearing the coat of endless possibilities. It's been many score that the hallowed doors of learning have been my muse. School may bore you, but I refuse to lose my vision of genius for all who are bruised. And in my cruise, this is what I've seen. The truth about learning is ever changing. They keep rearranging the stories as the academy jostles for glory, inventing new labels that pain and worry, the cruelest form of allegory, and changing nothing that really matters. If reading or math cause stress or your writing's a mess, then you have yet to address the critical basics in your learning success and be impressed by learning some things with certainty. Your foundation had cracks, so you made your own hacks, cheated or guessed, hid your shame to this day in a game you weren't equipped to play. But don't assign blame. We're all doing our best, caught in a system that is foundation less and can misunderstand how to use the test. Your stutter shows they have work to do to find the true genius residing in you. You choke on your words, desperate to be heard. This may sound absurd, but here's the word. The obstacle in your mouth starts in your head, and your dread of being misread turns your tongue to lead. They call you slow, but you're really too fast to stay with the pack, and in your mind go back and forth with thoughts and visions, suffering derision because you don't go with their flow. If they only knew what you know. If there was time to explore, they could ask for more. But the rush to cover the curriculum means that instead you lie in your bed wondering, what's wrong with my head? There's nothing wrong with you. You who seek only to accept and be accepted in love, but feel the need to succeed, to rise above the others or fall behind. It's not a race, sweet child of grace. Their taste for haste exacerbates confusion and comes from an illusion of separation from the whole, resulting in waste of your potential as you play the wrong roles, chase unfulfilling goals, and eat from the bowl of limitations. It's time to get straight to the point of your greatness. It's in you, but you don't know it. You haven't learned how to consistently show it. It's never too late to return to the gate and lay a new foundation. When you join the Genius Nation, you'll with focus and poise make an authentic noise and claim your unique location with unmessable elation. Stand up because you matter. Without you, the world would be flatter and destiny's pattern would be missing a part. You were born to make life your art. So start today to craft a new way. I've got your back. Trust me with your heart. Love, your soul. Thank you for your attention. Thank you again to Maria and team and all of the other presenters today who are bringing awareness to dysgraphia in wonderful ways that will be opening up opportunities for adults and children around the world. I am sure of it. If you would like to contact me, you can reach me at support@thelearningforce.com, and you can learn about assessments and dysgraphia solutions at alphabetter.ca. Have a wonderful day.